refreshing the page.
It says going
This is
live.
going live.
We're live.
We're live.
Whoa! Finally!
Yay!
Yay!
We got it working.
I see it. Nice.
Awesome.
Great.
Hello.
Thank you
for joining us, everyone,
and
thank you for your patience.
we had a few little technical difficulties getting started there. But hopefully you can all hear us and see us clearly here. Natalia is drawing me some little encouragement song. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Obviously, this is TOKYOPOP. My name is Kay Winters. I do marketing and events and all kinds of fun
behind the scenes stuff. And
with me today
is the wonderful Natalia Batista.
The author and the artist and the power behind Sword Princess Amaltea.
Yes, I have the books are here.
Yay! Look at them. They're so great. So Natalia, you're part of our International Women of Manga program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is an initiative that TOKYOPOP's been running for a couple years now, where we find incredibly talented women from all around the world who wrote reading manga, who have gone on
to make their own manga.
And you're one of our flagship titles. You're one of the first titles in the line.
Yeah, it was really fun. The fact that you decided to pick up artists from all over Europe and different kind of the world, and it felt very much where I think manga right now is. It's becoming something global. It's been happening in Germany and in many other countries, building their own manga scene, for example, in Sweden, and it's been going on for almost 2 decades. So I think it was this time that needed to be more like tying it together, and I'm really glad TOKYOPOP did that. So it's really awesome. I'm gonna post this on my Facebook as well, so people can jump in.
We have some echoing going on here.
Okay.
Let's see what might be going on here.
I don't hear any echo. Do you hear?
No, it may be.
Do you have headphones in?
Yes.
You do have headphones in. Okay. No, apparently it's good. Apparently talking about it fixed it. So that's good.
Oh, nice.
Thank you to my fellow TOKYOPOP coworkers for being our cheerleaders in our chat and letting us know how this is going. So Natalia, you're from Sweden. And that's where Sword Princess Amaltea started was in Swedish. That was where it was first published, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's in how many languages now?
It started in Swedish, and I'm gonna draw at the same time.
Please do.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna draw, and people can. You're gonna check the chat, right? If someone wants me to draw something special.
Of course, yes. If you have any questions for Natalia,
if you have any requests for images for her to draw, please let us know in the chat, and
we'll do our best to accommodate.
Yeah. So Amaltea is my fantasy story that I started making in Sweden back in 2012. That was a long time ago, and it's so far been published in Germany, in Italy, in Czech Republic, and in America. So that's great. But still, there's many more that I would like to reach with this manga as well. I have some friends in other countries that I'd love to be able to read it in their language, I think.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm hearing from people that the echo seems to be on my side.
So I'm going to have you. I'm going to ask you a question and have you just sort of talk for a little bit. You have your own studio in Sweden. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, me and so I'm a manga artist I've been working for 13 years actually. I started doing professional work as a manga artist and manga teacher because I also teach not manga but comics and visual narration and creating characters. I've taught that for 13 years in 2006. And back in 2006, I studied at a comic art school here in Sweden, which is also where I teach right now. So back then, when I studied there, I just happened to end up next to some other manga artists in the classroom who just ended up on the same table. And we all like manga, we all draw in a manga-inspired way. So we decided to start our own kind of artist collective, which we called Nosebleed Studio. And the story behind that is because we knew there was a similar artist collective in Britain, in UK, which was called Sweat Drop Studios. And this was an inspiration for us because Sweat Drops, as all manga fans know, is the big water ball that you get in the forehead when you think something is a little bit embarrassing or strange or just awkward. And we thought, is there something else that is kind of like an internal, inside joke for manga fans? And we're like, oh, nosebleeds, that's a very manga type thing. That's a thing that happens in manga a lot. So we started Nosebleed Studio as an homage to Sweat Drop Studios. And actually today, a couple of years ago, when I visited London Comic Con first time, I actually went up to their booth and said, guys, you are the inspiration for my studio. And they're like, wow! So now we have contact as well with the Sweat Drop Studio people. So that's really fun, like getting the networks. But yeah, we started the studio to be able to spread each other's works. We realized that if we work together, we can collaborate and we can help each other. It goes faster, it's more fun. And that way we also reach more people with our mangas. So we started doing both like fanzines or simple copy books, doujinshi works. But at this time, we slowly developed into a company during the past 13 years. And today we are actually, sadly, the only publisher in Sweden that publishes manga regularly in Sweden.
Wow.
Swedish is a very small language, so there's not many readers, sadly. But we do it. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's great.
So I'm hearing that the echo may actually be on your side. Do you have audio coming through your speakers?
There might be an issue. Wait. Can you still hear me now?
How's the echo now, guys? Let us know in the chat if you can still hear the echo when I'm speaking.
But you can hear me because I had two mics in plugged into the computer, so it might be that.
I bet that's what it was.
Okay.
All right. We haven't heard anything yet, so let's assume it's okay. But thank you for letting us know in the chat, guys. This is our first time doing a live stream, so there's going to be a couple of hiccups along the way, and we appreciate your patience. Okay, cool. So you guys publish a number of different titles, but the one that we have released for TOKYOPOP obviously was Sword Princess Amaltea, which is primarily what we're going to be talking about today. And we did ask on social media for a few questions from some fans. And we have okay, apparently there's still an echo. We've still got an echo here. Let's see. Sorry guys. We'll try and figure this out here. It got worse apparently.
Oh, you don't have the stream on or anything?
I don't believe so. No, everything's muted on my end. Is it only when I speak
that we get
the echo, guys?
Because you have the chat as well, but you don't have any sound from the stream, right?
No, all of my speakers are muted.
Yeah.
Okay. So weird.
I know. We need Despacito playing right now.
Yeah, my speakers
are turned down to zero. There's no volume coming out. Nope. No volume here, unfortunately.
You had
two mics.
Yeah. Should I change to that mic?
Yeah, let's try
the different mic.
Yes. Okay, then I have to do some settings probably.
Yeah.
No more cowbell
till we fix the echo.
I'm not sure how I changed in Zoom the actual sound where they picked the sound from. Does anyone know?
You should be able to go to the main window and change in your settings.
Like my main window though. I think it's because I am sharing the screen, maybe. Here. Okay. Yes. Now I know. Okay. Let's see if I can change my sound.
Okay. Hi, Niji TV.
Hi, Niji TV.
Okay. So now I'm on the other microphone. So it should change. Can you hear me?
We can hear
you.
How's
good.
Echo?
How's
the echo, everyone?
Does it sound good? I hope so. Should we continue?
I hope so.
We can hear
you. Let's check. Are we getting any?
Nothing's come
through yet about the echo.
Okay. So let's continue and see if this was the solution.
That sounds like
a plan.
Nice.
So let's
see. Pull up some of these questions here.
So we have a
question here that came through from Ogata Tetsuo saying, when are you going to be making a trip to Portugal? And are there any plans to have Sword Princess Amaltea in Portuguese? A Portuguese version, I should say.
Yes. And the question is probably because my father is from Portugal, so I have a connection to the Portuguese language. I don't know much Portuguese, but I understand a lot of Portuguese because I've been traveling there with my father. Sadly, and he's there right now actually, so I miss him a lot. He's in Portugal in Coimbra, and when I visit him, I usually visit his house there, and there's a very good comic book store in the town that I can recommend as well. So yeah, I think you should. I think I should be there as soon as this mess in the world. It's as soon as we've taken care of the coronavirus. I'm going there. I was actually planning on going there this summer, and I would love to try to get in contact with publishers and with Portuguese language publishers, both Brazilian and Portuguese. I know some Brazilian manga artists as well. There's a manga scene in Brazil as well that would be really fun to visit and check out. And so far I haven't had the chance, but I think it would be a good next step. But yeah, I think everything is on pause right now because of the corona of COVID-19. So we'll see. Hopefully when this is over, I can start my touring again, going around the world and spreading my manga. That's my plan.
Awesome. Good news there.
Okay, so apparently the echo is still extremely bad.
But it's only when I speak.
what I'll do is I'm going to send you the messages through text.
Okay.
The questions through text, and you can answer them out loud
until we can fix it.
And next time we'll have it fixed.
Oh, but where do I see the text? That's a problem.
I'll send them. I can send them to you on WhatsApp.
Oh, that's good. Perfect. I'll keep WhatsApp then. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, should I be talking maybe? So it's not quiet. Yeah. So it's been, I think, 2 years now since TOKYOPOP published Amaltea, and it's been really fun because it's been when I got published by TOKYOPOP in 2018, I got to travel to Anime Expo in LA, and that was a huge experience for me. I've been thinking of like all the meetings with people and the inspiration to see the manga culture and anime culture within another country. And I've been traveling to Germany as well, and to Italy, and in Portugal. I've been to manga conventions in Portugal as well. And every time when you travel somewhere else, it's like coming home and being away at the same time. It's like you meet people that thinks the same way that you think and have the same interests, and the good thing is that you forget that you're away. It feels like you have met these people before, but still you meet so many new friends and people you can have good conversations with. So some of them I still keep as friends on Facebook, for example, and we discuss how to make comics and how to make mangas and projects and stuff. So that's it's fun. I think I think the world is getting smaller, and especially now when everybody is kind of in the same boat, or a lot of people in the same boat, we realize that this is actually a pretty good time to be in a pandemic, because we have all this technology, so we can live stream. I'm in Sweden right now. It's 9:30 in the evening, and it's dark outside, and you're in the middle of the day, and and yes, even though we have technical problems, we can still enjoy a talk together and do like projects together. So that's, yeah, I think a lot of people have been like afraid of how we should continue after this. But for example, Nosebleed Studio, we did all our meetings online before this. So when this happened, we didn't have to change any of our work anywhere. The only thing that we lost was all the events, and we're still thinking of how we can kind of do something similar, or meet our fans in a safe environment, or in a safe way online, for example. So this live stream is such a perfect example of how you can get over something like this, get over a problem like this. Yeah, I'll see if you have asked some questions. Probably have. Yeah, so one question that you wrote for that is Kitsune Windsor asked, what brings you the greatest joy of making manga? This is a really good question. The thing I like most about making manga is probably the thing that gives me most joy of making manga. I think either you can see it from which part of making manga is fun, and then I think definitely I really like creating characters and creating their how they talk or how they move. That's really fun. But I also think what really makes me like enjoy making manga is probably the step when you actually see the manga become a book. I really love the fact when you see it become something, either a book or posted online as a webcomic. Like the publication is really fun. So I think if I wasn't a manga artist, I would probably be a publisher. If I wasn't a publisher, I would probably be working as an agent or something. If I wasn't that, I would probably become I don't know, zombie hunter. If it wasn't that, I would probably become a baker, bake buns. I like baking buns. Okay, we have more questions. Another one is from Oba Ashoka Megishima Somei, who asked, where do your main ideas and inspiration come from? I think most of my inspiration comes from everyday life. I think I had actually a teacher of mine who said, he recommended not having a book where you write down your ideas. Instead, he said that what he did was just wait until the idea came back to him, and if the idea was coming back to him, it was a good idea. It was the idea that he had to do. And I think I use the same kind of logic with my ideas. I get a lot of the ideas during the day or during the weeks, like, oh, maybe I should do a comic about this or this, but maybe it's not my idea. Maybe it's a good idea, but not the thing I should be doing. And I think my best recommendation to know if it's your idea or not, it's to actually just wait for it and see if it stays, see if it comes back. If it comes back and keeps kind of haunting you, then it's an idea you have to make. And that is more connected to you. So maybe it's not the best idea, but it's an idea that is personal, a personal issue you have to deal with. And that's most of my comics has been that, actually. So it's been that from, I think, from the first one. I can go back in time and read my old comics, and I can see, oh, this was pretty much what I was facing in my life right at that moment. So I can see how this comic was made from my psyche at that moment. So I think that's like everyday life, and what I experience is my inspiration. I think it's also a bit dangerous to get inspired by others' works and to say, oh, I would like to make another Game of Thrones, or I love Harry Potter and I should make another Harry Potter. That's the wrong kind of angle. Because sure, it's a good work and you love the characters, but are they your characters? Are they you can't make a copy. That's not a good way to start. You should start by asking yourself, what is the issues I want to talk about, or I want to make a story about. So I would say I rarely get inspired by, or I don't want to get inspired by works. I want to get inspired by life, because that's more, it feels more more truthful to who I am or what I do. So we have more questions. How do you do your political world building? The world of Amaltea is different from ours, but easy to understand. What goes into making a setting like that? That's a very good question. And to be honest, I'm kind of not a world builder. When I was making the world for Amaltea, I was thinking, how do I, in the most simple way, create a world where I don't have to create like languages or like too many details, or I don't have to write the whole history of the world, because I didn't want to. I'm a little bit lazy, actually. So to be honest, I made a world that pretty much was like a Swiss cheese. There was a lot of holes, but there was still a cheese there, so you accepted it. So if you read the story from the beginning, you would probably find some, or I hope you didn't find any holes in the story. But I just tried to fill in the holes and not put too much fluff around it. The funny thing was, I finished the Swedish version of Amaltea back in 2016, and in 2017 I met two guys at RPG convention, or like a games convention, and they were like, can we make an RPG game together, an RPG book together, a paper and pen RPG game? And I'm like, sure, we can do that with Amaltea. And then I had to sit down and actually write the history of the world, because that needed to be in that book. And suddenly I realized, oh no, I should have done this before, because now I know nothing. I pretty much, it felt like writing a fan fiction of my own world, because suddenly I had to guess what was the idea that Natalia 3 years ago had with this story, with this world. But it was fun. It was fun to just fill in the gaps and just flesh out the whole world. That was a fun exercise. So to be honest, I don't build very much of the world, but that's not a very helpful answer. So I'm going to give a little bit more of a helpful answer, and that's I think when you create a world, you should be, or what I wanted to create was a world that was convincing but not confusing. And I think that's a big problem I have when I see other people creating a fantasy world, is that they put too much new things into the world. And actually that's one thing I got complaints about in the beginning when people were reading it in Sweden, and they said, oh, this is not much of a new story, it's more like an old story that you just flip the genders in. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what I did. That's pretty much the idea of the story. I wanted it to be something that we recognized, but with something new, with some new kind of aspect to it. And I think at that time people were very much focused on like Game of Thrones or I don't know, Lord of the Rings, and they were expecting something totally new, which is really, really hard, especially within, I think, the fantasy genre, because in the fantasy genre, the people who say we want new fantasy actually don't want new fantasy. They want just the traditional elves and dwarfs and everything and dragons, and that's not new. That's been old for 100 years. So I mean, it's really hard to please that group. And I wasn't aiming of pleasing, I was aiming of provoking, like the question, why do we have to have patriarchal societies when you can create any kind of society in a fantasy? Why does it have to be patriarchal? Like, why does it have to be men creating the rules in this world when you can create dragons and everything? And that was pretty much my idea. So the criticism of the story being very similar to a lot of tales that you already read, I felt that criticism was kind of missing the mark of the whole story. But when it comes to the story creating, to actually create a story or a world for the story, I would say my biggest recommendation is to make sure that nothing is just left to like, you should be able to answer all questions in a linear answer. So if someone asks, why do the men have long hair in your world, I would tell them, yeah, in my world the long hair is connected to not having to work too much or not having to fight too much, and it's also long hair is also connected to a beauty standard that at some point was set by women. So women actually had long hair, and then men had to have long hair to be as pretty as women. Or I would elaborate in that way. If someone asks me a question about my world, I should be able to answer it, even with like making up things, but it should be like connected to the whole concept of the world. So that's why I think the most important part is not coming up with strange creatures or elaborate fantasy names. The more important part is to come up with a concept for your world. Is the concept that your world is driven by I don't know, hydraulic power, or maybe your world doesn't have money. Maybe the money is I don't know, it's not money, it's I don't know, favors, or maybe it's water. Maybe is the only way to pay for something in your fantasy world. So that's the concept. You have to find what concept is, like, what is the most important aspect of your world, and that should be pretty much the answer to all the questions that people have about the world. It should be connected to that concept, and then you have a world. That's pretty much my idea of world making. So yeah, let's see what else questions you had to me. Another question was, in Sword Princess Amaltea, how did you come up with the armor design? Were there any historical reference materials inspired you? I I do like historical armor. I'm a little bit into, especially before I started doing Amaltea, I watched a lot of this show on History Channel, I think, called Ancient Warrior or something, I think, where they took like samurais and Vikings and they measured them, like, okay, which one would win in a fight or something like that. And they always show different armor designs, and that's, I think, when you start thinking, just like with when you build your world, when you start thinking of the armor design, as something that should be able to be answered, like you should be able to answer, how does this work, or how do you put it on, or why does it look like this? That's pretty much the key to, I think, good armor design. So one thing, for example, with Amaltea's armor, she has a breastplate. This was actually from the beginning a double breastplate, but then I read a blog entry about the fact that when you have a double breastplate, which means 1 cup per breast, if you get hit in the middle, you can actually die, and that's not good. So that's because this is where solar plexus is, so you don't want a sword in there. That's a bad spot for a sword. So yeah, so removing the double breastplate was a good idea from my character design. That was through the process I found out about this. But then she has on her design, she has this kind of layered like this. And my thought was that I had to think out, how does this actually connect? So my thought was that this is kind of opening in the middle here. So when you open it, it actually looks, let me show you. I'm thinking it actually looks like, so when it's open, it's more like, let's see. So this is when the armor is open. You can see it from the inside like this. And there's some kind of hook on this side that hooks into the back side of this side. And that's pretty much how the whole armor, I'm thinking the whole armor looks. So it's pretty much like a connected chainmail like this. We put it together in the middle, almost like a corset, but easy to put on by yourself, because she has to be able to take it off and put it on her by herself. But she never takes it off in the picture, so you can never see it. This is just my guessing. And this is the same idea when it comes to creating mechanics like armor or swords or any tools or mechanics in your world. It's very important that you know how it works. Just like when you want to draw a bike, you need to know how the bike works, like what is all about the gears. You can't just guess, like there's a gear here and a gear here and a gear here. You can't guess. You, like, someone will see that it's wrong. So guessing is the biggest mistake of an artist. The first step is always seeing how things actually work. How does material work? How does, for example, fabric bend? How does hair look when it bends? So that's the armor design is very much based on. I had to come up with an idea of how to put it on, and that was my rule. I don't know, because I'm not an armor designer. Like, I haven't made a physical armor in metal, so I don't know if this is a good design or not. Maybe it's a terrible design. Maybe you would die with this. I don't know. So I have very little. Since I'm an artist sitting in my very safe home, I have no idea how it is to be in battle. I have no idea how war works, especially with armor made of metal. So I'm just guessing. And the good thing about that is that I think that probably 99.9% of my readers is just like me, have no idea of how it is to be in metal armor fighting for your life. So the good thing is I don't have to care about the details, as long as I know how it actually works, how to put it on, and it doesn't look too complicated. Because that's also a thing, like if she would be alone in the woods and having to take it off, how does she do that? You have to think about the mechanics or the practicalities of armor, for example. So that's pretty much my tips on armor design. It should be practical, and you need to know how to put it on and how to take it off. So yeah. Another question is, what do you do when you get a creative block? So yeah, that's like the $1 million question, I guess. I think it's very subjective. I mean, for me, it's usually the best way is either to just hammer through, just continue and just try to push and push and push and just try to continue working with what I'm doing. And at some point, the kind of tension lets go. And most of the time, I think when I get a creative block, it's because I put too much pressure on myself. It's not because I don't have ideas or I don't have a vision or I don't have creativity to make what I want to do, but it's more about, usually when I get artist blocks or creative blocks, it's when I think I need to make something masterful, something perfect from the beginning, and I don't feel secure enough to I feel a little bit self-conscious, and I think I'm not good enough. And usually when you end up on Instagram, you realize that after 5 minutes that you're just one little pea in a pond, and there's like so many good artists out there. Why should I be doing this project? Or I suck, like kind of that. And that thinking is the first step to creating a creative block, I think. It's usually the pressure. So that's why I when I feel that way, I usually just hammer on and just continue drawing whatever I'm doing, and just tell myself that it doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. It doesn't matter if it's what I think I should have been doing, or if it's just a good picture or a good work in the end. So I think my best tip for someone who has it is to hammer on, but I think that doesn't work for everybody. Yeah, it's very personal. It's very depending on how you, I think the psychology of yourself. Like if you're, I pretty much feel like I'm a fighter. I'm a very positive person until the very, very, very end. There's moments when I see that everything is gonna fall, and I still think like, oh, this could still happen. And I'm very much of a time optimist. I think that I have a lot more time than I have, but I'm also pretty fast. So, and I also make sure not to get stuck with details too much. So yeah, it depends on how you are as a person, I guess. I think. Let's see if there's another question. Do we have more questions, maybe? Yeah. Another question was from Kitchen Windsor. It was great buying your book face to face. Yes, I remember our meeting it was in Hollywood Library, I think. Or was it? Do you remember, Kay? You were there with me. The library where we were, and there was we were on the second floor, and there was like, yeah, you remember? Yes. Has any fan ever gave you a memorable gift you thought was cool? Yeah, actually, when I was in Anime Expo 2 years ago, when I visited, there was one fan that came up to me, and they were. Oh, I really love your work, and I'm from Australia, so I came here just to give you this gift. And they gave me a small kangaroo plushie with a small Australian flag, and I'm like, wow, thank you so much. It was such a cute gift. I've never been given a plushie before, so that was really cute. And that was memorable. Yeah. Also, I get a lot of artworks from talented and young and creative fans of mine. Especially in Sweden, I have one manga that is published in Swedish that is called Meow, which is about cats. And people love cats, and especially kids love cats. So my manga has a huge following among like 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds that starts reading, because it's very much like a kid's learning to read manga. And usually when I go to schools where I do lessons or workshops in manga workshops or how to do comics, I usually get 1 or 2 of these cat pictures that they drew from the book, and like, oh, this is my character, and thank you so much. So they're like very inspired by the manga, the cat mangas, and about Amaltea as well. So I get a lot of manga adaptions or their own adaptions of Amaltea. That's kind of fun, I think. So yeah, that's I think the most memorable parts is when people come up with artwork that's really fun to see. And then another question from Pink Bookcase: do you have an ending already set in your mind for the series? Also, what inspired you to start Amaltea? So yeah, I think an ending is very important to have before you start making the manga. This is I think a big misconception in the manga world, that people have read in interviews with, for example, some big manga artists like Akira Toriyama or something, and they hear maybe that, oh, if you work for Shonen Jump in Japan, you don't have to have an ending because they will continue the series anyways, and you just have to continue it, and the biggest important thing is the journey. And I think all that is a little bit the short version of the story, because yes, it's true that a lot of mangas in Japan get prolonged when they become hits, only the ones that become hits, but also the even though they get prolonged, they still talk about like the continuation and where the ending is. And for example, artists like Eiichiro Oda, who has been making One Piece for a long time, very long time, like 20 years or something. Like I remember when I was a teen and it was still going, and I'm like, yeah. But he still says he has an ending in mind. He's coming to the ending. He's going there. He has an ending. So I think the biggest misconception is thinking that you have to be like flexible and be able to change your ending. And I think you could probably do that, and I think especially if you're working with web comics, I think a certain part of flexibility would be good. I would love to at some point make a web comic where I actually kind of interact with the audience, so the audience can build the story with me. That would be really fun. But unless you're doing a web comic that way, I think in any other case it's good to have a certain ending in mind, because you are pretty much like the chef of the story. If you put in the wrong spices, or if you cook it for too long, or if you use the wrong ingredients, not fresh ingredients, the result is a bad soup. And you don't want to end up with a bad soup. So remember, you're the cook and you're presenting the story. And in that way, you need to know exactly how many spices and exactly what ingredients and exactly for how long you should cook the stew before it becomes bad. So yeah, my tip is to not think that, oh, I'm gonna come up with that later. Have a story in mind, an ending in mind, especially also because the ending should be tied to the concept and should be tied to the whole idea. Why are you making the manga from the beginning? So if you don't have an ending, why are you making it? Like, what's the point? What's what is the thing that you want the story to tell the reader? Yeah. We have another question. The second question of Pink Bookcase was also, what inspired you to start Amaltea? And that's another question. My idea, my inspiration for Amaltea was actually the whole fantasy genre in itself. Saying, like, I felt like a lot of fantasy, and I didn't find it for me as a woman who wants to be kind of challenged and not just see the same kind of stereotypes or standards. I want to be able to see women, not only strong women, like I don't want a bunch of Xena warrior princesses. I also want women who have like flaws or evil, but doesn't have to be sex goddesses. Like characters that are just diverse. And I feel often that especially female characters in fantasy stories are very flat and with very few dimensions. And I that was my biggest issue. I felt like we had to make more manga, especially with the manga genre as well, that kind of break the rules or break the standards and kind of provoke a little bit to maybe inspire a new kind of storytelling or a new kind of fantasy genre. And I know there is some like Ursula Le Guin, who made the stories from Earthsea, I think it was, who's also been animated into a Studio Ghibli movie. And a lot of her works is also norm breaking and creating very much like provoking the standards of the fantasy genre. So that was pretty much what I wanted to do. I didn't want to waste my time with another one of those fantasy stories with the cliches. I wanted to make something that made people think. I think that's the best way to make your story memorable, is that people think about it and wants to read it again or recommend it to someone. That's my idea. So yeah, I don't know for how long we should continue, but I'm gonna continue. We started a little bit late, so I guess we continue another 20 minutes-ish? 15, 20 minutes? Okay. We have more questions. The next question was Niji TV, from Niji TV. Do you have any plans to do other manga series, or do you think making some spin-off? Do you think of making some spin-off of Amaltea? Actually, I have a project with Amaltea. Like I said with Amaltea, after I finished the manga in Sweden, we also made paper and pen RPG book with how to play sword princesses in this world, where I got to flesh out the world a little bit. So that was kind of like a follow-up to Amaltea. It hasn't been published in English yet, but I'm thinking of talking to the publisher and especially the author, because there was a man named Thomas who was helping me with the rule sets. So he made the rules and I made the world. And we've been talking about translating it into English because it's a really fun, I think, especially now that people are sitting at home, role-playing is such a perfect way to escape this very surreal reality and go into something that is more, I don't know, enjoyable in many ways and less create less angst, I guess. So I think we're thinking of translating this book, and the idea of this role-playing game book was also to maybe even inspire people to make more stories in this kind of world where women are the dominant gender. So and it actually inspired me. So I had two other friends of mine, Marcus and Joachim are the names, and both of them, they also are manga fans, and they followed my manga development of my development of my manga, and they started up during the same time. They also started up their own visual novel creating studio, and they have made one visual novel which is on Steam called Celestial Crossing. I think it's named Celestial Crossing. Yeah, I think so. I'm just gonna double check. Celestial. I think so. So yeah, they asked me, Celestial Crossing, and they asked me, would you like to make a visual novel with us, with Amaltea, because they wanted to make something with Swedish something with a Swedish touch that we could do together. So we're actually working right now on a visual novel game, which will be a direct continuation after the manga series. And this has been I don't want to spoil the manga if any of you haven't read the manga yet, or you are maybe starting to read manga. And by the way, it's for free. The first book is for free, right? Okay, on the Pop Comic app. So you should read the manga. There's no reason not to do it. It's for free, so read it. So yeah, check out the Pop Comics app where it is for free. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but there is like a possible continuation after it, not to say too much. And that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. So the continuation will be like a visual novel game where you can choose the adventure. You can, by your choices, you change the storyline. And I actually think I could show you a little bit of the manuscript of how that works. Yeah. So yeah, I would like to show you a little bit because I prepared it here. So we take a break from the artwork and go over to another frame instead. Let's see. This one. So now we're in my drive. This is where I have some of the stuff for the demo version of the game. So the game is based on the manga, but the characters, something happens in the manga, and then I'm not gonna spoil too much. But we follow the main characters, Amaltea and Prince Ocean, and they are like, something happens in the manga. I'm not gonna say what, but then a continuation is their travel. And this is where I put some of the characters. The manuscript, when I make a manuscript for the visual novel, this is actually the first time I've made a visual novel, so it was kind of a learning process, but I got to see some manuscripts from my friends. They showed me how their other visual novel game, Celestial Crossing, how that game's manuscript looked. So it's pretty much the same as a manuscript for a movie, as you can see. It looks similar, where you have like some character talking, and you also have a transition to backgrounds or what happens. But then you have also these moments where you can get different suggestions, like if you do this, then this character will reply this way. And this is the little bit more mathematical part of a visual novel game, is where you actually can make someone like something happen if the character is if you choose as a player the character doing something or saying something special. So this is very much based on what people say. So depending on what you reply in different dialogues, you get transitions to other scenes, or you earn certain points, or you can gain money, which you can buy stuff with. And what's unique with this story is that many times when you make a visual novel, you usually have only one character. But what we decided in this game is that you have two characters that you follow. So you follow both Amaltea, and this is some of the different facial expressions or expressions that Amaltea show in the game. But you also follow at the same time the other main character, which is Ocean, the prince that comes together with that Amaltea meets in the manga, and they travel together. And in this storyline in the game, you can actually at some point choose which character to play, and the computer will play the other character depending on what choices you did before. So it's a very like different kind of visual novel, because usually in a visual novel, the kind of dating game apps that are popular in Japan, you usually have one character that you are the main character, and depending on what you do, the other characters act differently towards you. But in this game, you actually the choices that the characters does together, that Amaltea and Ocean do together, that will affect the character's choices when you're not playing the character. It's a little bit like a side story, and that also affects different endings. So I counted. There is, to be able to see all the endings in the game, you probably have to replay it 14 times or something like that, like at least 14 times to be able to find all the different endings. And there are some special endings as well. And the plan that we have right now is to have the demo version up maybe this summer for people to be able to play it for free. And it's gonna be like almost like a tutorial version of the real game, how big it's gonna be. And then we'll see if I can make a Kickstarter out of it. We're gonna make it either way, but it would be fun to have some extra stretch goals with extra characters that I could add in and stuff like that. So that depends on what we do with it. But it's kind of fun because I think as a comic artist, you can you don't have to lock yourself to just one kind of medium. I know a lot of manga artists or comic artists who love doing, for example, animation work or graphic design, doing logos, and I think, or character designs for games for that matter. That's like the game and anime manga scene is very connected as well. So I think locking yourself into just being a manga artist is a little bit sad. I think we can do much more, and especially because there's so much more creativity in creating not only the character for one medium, but seeing what else could I make with this character. So that's the game. I hope I can show a little bit more maybe on the future shows we do. Maybe we can even like play it together. It would be fun if we get the echo to work, or get rid of the echo. We could do like voices together and stuff and play the game. That would be fun. So we'll see if we can do that. I'm really glad we did this live stream. I didn't have as much time to draw, but I answered some questions, and I thought we could maybe do more of these, and that would be fun. So yeah, any more questions? Or
so Natalia, do you want to try muting your mic for just a second? Let me see if that works a little bit. I hope the echo is gone. I hope you guys had a great time, Natalia. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Really great questions from everyone. Fantastic answers. We have been talking, and we would actually really love to make this a little bit of a regular thing on our YouTube channel. Natalia did some amazing how to create your own manga classes when she was here for Anime Expo. I believe Kitsune Windsor, you attended one of those classes, and we would like to start putting them up on YouTube, doing them step by step, so you guys can actually start making your own characters, making your own manga with Natalia. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for bearing with our numerous technical issues that we had. We will absolutely have them fixed before the next live stream. And right after this, I will go ahead and mute my mic so Natalia can say goodbye. But follow us on social media if you're not following us. We're TOKYOPOP on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And we will let you know when the next live stream is going to be. And also, the shout out that Natalia did. Sword Princess Amaltea, the first volume is free to read right now. If you go to tokyopop.com/together, up until the end of this month, we're giving away a number of first volumes and a number of sample chapters for our titles, and Sword Princess Amaltea is one of them. So definitely check that out. Get some good reading material during the unfortunate lockdown right now. Thank you from me, and go ahead, Natalia.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciated this. I think it's going to be fun to do this a lot more often. I think, like you said, the technical issues, we're going to fix that and everything like that. So, and I think it was really fun to have you, viewers, and the questions, awesome questions, more of those questions. I'd love to, if we could also jump into some of the mangas that TOKYOPOP have and talk about like paneling or storytelling or characters, like the details. So this was just a sneak peek, and we can do a lot more. And also, like Kay said, it would be fun if you also like asked us to do certain kind of thing. Like, could you do a show about how to draw hair, or could you talk about how you create villains in a manga? Like anything, any good questions, and we can have like a show on only that topic. Or maybe we could do a book club, and we can have like, read this chapter before the episode of this stream, and we can do like a book club. I'd love to do something, and especially now that we're home, and yeah, we need to interact with each other and have a chance to create stuff and not just sit home alone. This is a good chance to take this moment and do something good with it, I think. So thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.